Hello, my name is Mark, and this is Production Engineering. This video is a subscriber response by Mike S, and he asked a couple of questions. The first question is where to find a US manufacturer, and the second question is how do I set up a pipeline if you need more than one manufacturer in your assembly. I've made some notes, and this will help me to stay on track for you, and you can see me looking to the side because that is my notes. So look, without further ado, let's get going on this. Okay, a two-part question. First part, where do I find a US manufacturer? So first of all, you need to work out what the actual process of manufacturing is. Is it metal fabrication? Is it woodworking? Is it plastic injection molding, or something totally different? The next thing you need to work out is whether that industry still exists in the US. A lot of industries have moved overseas because of several reasons. You could have a environmental policy that had changed. So, for example, PCB manufacturing is not a very clean process. There's a lot of chemicals used, and you need to treat those chemicals and look after them within the new policy. So that would have added additional cost to manufacturing for that particular production base. Now, another example is bamboo. There may not be enough raw materials in the US to get a decent manufacturing up and running in the US. So, for example, all bamboo manufacturing is the raw material is brought into the US from overseas. They don't actually grow bamboo on a commercial scale in the US. So there's a couple of little things to consider before actually starting your search. Now, a couple of things out of my notes. I would also ask, does it matter to your customer that this is a US made product? Have you got a clear reason why you want to manufacture in the US? And will the buying habit of your potential customer change as you provide them with this product? They're obviously going to elaborate whether they would prefer to buy US based versus the cheap stuff they've been buying for quite some time now. Now, what is your strategy and research to back up and confirm that your move to the US manufacturing is a smart thing to do? So just ask yourself these questions. You don't really need to reply to me. This is your proprietary information and this is your project. So just a few questions to think about. So let's get on with the actual question, which is how do you find a US manufacturer? So for me, the way I go about it is I use Google. That's the first thing. There's no trick here. There is a little bit of a twist on this. Is if you are outside of the US, you need to use a VPN to log onto a server in the US so that your search actually is done on US soil. Now, why is that important? When you have manufacturers, they generally will advertise their wares and goods, but they tend to advertise mainly within the local area or US based. So if you are searching out of the US or using, for example, I'll be using an Australian search engine, it doesn't yield very good results unless I'm actually looking within the US for manufacturers. So that's one little tip. Now, okay. If you have a network in the US, like I do, I have several colleagues that I can talk to that are US based, and they sometimes are able to provide me with leads or ideas where I can start searching for a particular manufacturer or whether that actual industry still exists in the US. So it's not something that everyone has, but it could be something that you may have and it could be useful for you. Now, the next, I would say Facebook groups or any form of sort of social groups. Now, the trick here is to find groups that talk about the actual manufacturing process that you would be using. So something like a furniture maker would be on a woodworking forum or furniture making forum or group on Facebook. Now, you can enter those groups and ask questions like, I'm looking for someone who can manufacture this product or something similar so you don't give your product away. Is there anyone in the US that does this? Now, it's more likely that you'll find someone in those groups that could actually help you, because you're not really advertising that you are doing a business. You are advertising for a business. You're trying to find someone. So you're very likely to find a manufacturer, or at the very least, you're not going to get banned from that group for spruiking. So, where else? Engtips.com is an open forum for engineers. That's actually a really good place to find engineering resources, and a lot of manufacturers hang out on that website. Now, other things is manufacturer directory. So I'll put a few of these on the board here, which are iqsdirectory.com, AMA, which is Australian Manufacturing Association, so it's ama50.com, and thomasnet.com. So these are manufacturing directories where manufacturers basically list their company names and contact details and what they do. So you could try that. Another way is to look for manufacturers by looking for advice on particular manufacturing processes. So recently I was doing a project where I needed to look for a manufacturer who does stamping and pressing. Now, I haven't done much of this work, so I wanted to refresh my brain a little bit and see what the limitations of materials are, what I needed to do about minimum thicknesses and minimum bend radiuses. So this is all engineering stuff. So I started searching for things like everything you need to know about metal stamping, or metal stamping design guides. And what actually happened is I ended up finding a lot of those resources that I required, but they were actually provided by manufacturing companies who do the process. Now, if this is anything to take away from this, is like this company is taking time to educate people, what they need to do to be able to get a really good product of high quality. So they're giving this information for free, and that really says quite a lot about a good quality company. If they're prepared to do that for you, then I mean, look into what they're actually doing for you. So now the final bit is trade shows. So trade shows are a bit of a tricky thing, because right now you can't go to trade shows because of what's happening around the world, but you can still do a few things there. If you do a search on Google for upcoming or past trade shows that have happened in your industry, you can actually get in there and find the trade directory, the people who are actually at the trade show who were exhibiting. So if you're going to a furniture show, you could go to furniture shows and have a look who exhibited the last year, or who's going to exhibit in this year. Maybe that's, a few months down a track where, it might all open up and you'll be able to travel to it. So you'll actually see in those directories, you get the company name, what they do, and their contact details. So that's pretty much a place where you can find things. Now, you can do a little trick. If you do know what process you use for manufacturing, and you have some sort of idea what kind of machinery you're going to use for manufacturing, you can actually do a broader search into trade shows that involve manufacturing and machinery. And what you can do is you can identify what kind of machine is used for a particular process, and then you go into the directory and you find those manufacturers of that machine. Then you contact the company and say, hey, I really like your machine. I'm not in the market to buy the machine, but I actually want to find one of your clients who actually uses it. I like what it does, and I'd like it to manufacture my product. Would you be able to put me in contact with them, or or something to that matter? So that's one little hack that you can use. Now, the other thing is actually attending trade shows. So if you're able to attend a trade show, then obviously, you can do a little thing called badge scanning. When you're walking past, in a lot of trade shows, you get a badge, and there'll be other people with badges with their name. Usually they have a company and what their position in a company is. And if you see something, that says CNC or woodworking or something like that, or if you're on a stand and someone's talking to a person who makes machines, and they're talking about CNC and cutting metal or cutting wood, then you can later on down the hall, ask the person, hey, look, I'm looking for someone who is capable of making my product. Do you, for example, cut CNC sheet metal, or do you cut plywood or something like that? So it's more of a direct approach, or just trade shows that are specific for your particular application, where you just go up to the booths and talk to people. So that's that first question. I hope that's given you some tips and tricks on how to find a manufacturer in the US. Now on to the second question, scrolling down. How to set up, how to set up a pipeline if you need more than one manufacturer in your assembly. Now, that really depends. It really depends on how simple your product is, because if it is a simple product, you could get one of your component manufacturers to complete the process. Now, one of the things you need to consider is which one of those manufacturers is set up to finish the product, as in do the assembly, test it, QA it, and pack it for you. Now, one thing to consider is how dirty is that process that they're doing. For example, when you're cutting metal, you always use lubricants, and lubricants pick up fine metal filings, and it actually gets quite dirty. Now, if that's your final manufacturer, and they can do all of that work, then why not ask them? The next question is like, how do you deal with your cleanliness? So when the product goes for final assembly and packing, do people have clean hands when they actually are packing your boxes? So a little interesting thing to consider. Okay. The next thing is really, if you cannot get any of your component manufacturers to finish that for you, you may need to engage someone who's a contract manufacturer or a job lot manufacturer. Now, those companies are effectively companies who assemble or sometimes have some manufacturing facilities as well, and they do small projects on a project basis. So you would come to them and say, hey, I've got this product. This is where you get your the injection molding. This is where you get the wood carving. They're going to come to your facility. I want you to put it together. You need to source the screws for me. Now, it's quite open what you can do with this. You can source the parts yourself and send everything and be in control of everything, and just the contract manufacturer does the assembly. Or you can actually get them to order parts for you as well. You can mix and match. So what effectively happens is they have a labor force, and a part of that labor force will get assigned to your project. You will need to provide training materials or train them yourself. You need to show them how to quality test it, how to product test it. You need to show them how to pack it. And that will require some really good production procedures and quality procedures. And I mean, you will probably need to get that from your production engineer. Wink, wink. Anyway, I'm sure you've got a really good one. Now, so after you've done that, look, you really need to make sure that that whole process works for you financially, because you're engaging someone as a third party to do it. So if your product is capable of having enough margin to absorb that, then yeah, this is the way you do it. Well, I guess I hope I've managed to answer your questions. This is pretty much all that I have come up with for you. If I've missed anything or misunderstood it, please let me know in the comments below. Thank you once again for subscribing to my channel and being one of the first people to take me up on my offer and post a question to answer. I really appreciate it, and I hope this video does well. And for those of you who are watching this, sometime down the track, and this is your first time here, please subscribe, and also go to the intro channel. It tells you about the channel itself and how you can get your questions answered. So take care. My name is Mark, and this is Production Engineering.